All right, let's talk about business compliance. I know. For a lot of us, that word just makes you think of checklists, mountains of paperwork, and endless red tape, right? But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if it's not a burden, but actually the bedrock of trust, security, and real long-term success? Because getting this stuff right is absolutely critical. And believe me, getting it wrong, well, that's way more expensive than you probably think. So let's dive in and break down why.
So let me ask you this. What's the real cost when a compliance mistake happens? And I'm not talking about a little slap on the wrist. No way. I'm talking about the actual bottom line price tag, the kind of tangible business-wrecking cost that comes from just one single failure.
Get ready for this, because the answer is pretty staggering. According to a 2024 report from IBM, the average cost of just one data breach is $4.88 million. Just let that sink in for a second. We're not just talking about some regulatory fines here. That number, that's the cost of fixing the mess, it's the cost of shattered customer trust, and the hit to your reputation. Honestly, a number like that can wipe a growing company right off the map. Gone.
Okay, so where do these catastrophic failures even start? Well, it's usually not some big single explosion. More often, it starts with these tiny, almost invisible cracks in the very foundation of how a company handles compliance. Let's take a closer look at what I mean.
And this really gets to a huge difference in approach. You've got the reactive strategy, which basically puts you in a state of constant emergency. You're just running around putting out fires after they've already started. Then you've got the proactive strategy. Now this is about fireproofing your house. It's all about building the systems that stop those emergencies from ever happening in the first place. Big difference, right?
So what are these cracks we're talking about? Well, these are the ones we see all the time. No clear policies. Your team is just left guessing what the rules are. Missing documentation? Good luck proving you did anything right when an auditor shows up. And skipping a security risk analysis? Come on, that's literally like driving down the highway blindfolded, hoping you don't hit anything. You have no idea where your biggest risks are. Every single one of these gaps is a disaster just waiting for a place to happen.
And all of this leads us right to our next point. Because look, you can have the best systems in the world, but there's another huge factor: the people who actually run those systems. Yeah, the human element. It's often the most unpredictable and honestly the most crucial piece of this whole compliance puzzle.
Now this is from Verizon's 2024 Data Breach Investigations Report. And it's so important to really get your head around this. Most data breaches, they're not the work of some evil genius hacker. Nope, they're caused by good, well-meaning employees who just make simple, preventable mistakes. And hey, this isn't about pointing fingers. It's about recognizing a massive vulnerability that we have to address. Just look at the numbers here. It's wild. 2/3, 67% of all data breaches are because of human error. That is more than double the breaches from malicious attacks and system glitches put together. The takeaway here is huge. If all your defenses are pointed outward, you're completely ignoring the single biggest risk, and it's already inside the building. So where are these errors actually coming from? Well, it often starts with that generic one-size-fits-all training that nobody really pays attention to. Or, it happens when someone skips a procedure just to hit a deadline. It's that casual chat in a coffee shop about a client that seems harmless. And maybe most importantly, it grows in a culture where nobody feels like compliance is their job, because there's no one person leading the charge.
Okay, this brings us to our third big problem area. And it's a frustrating one. What happens when a company makes a mistake? They find it, they know about it, and then they do absolutely nothing to stop it from happening all over again. This, my friends, is the story of broken feedback loops. So to really understand this, we need to talk about something called CAPA. That stands for Corrective and Preventative Actions. It's a formal process, but it's pretty straightforward. The corrective part is about fixing the immediate problem, putting a Band-Aid on it. But the preventative part, and this is the magic, that's where you dig down to the root cause to make sure that same problem can never happen again. And here's the kicker. One of the single most common things auditors find is that companies fail right here. Organizations are usually pretty decent at the corrective part. They're good at patching the hole in the boat, but they completely drop the ball on the preventive part. And this failure to learn means you're just doomed to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. It's like Groundhog Day for compliance failures, and it's a massive drain on your resources. A healthy process, on the other hand, looks totally different. It's a continuous cycle. You prepare, you find the gaps, you actually fix them for good, that's the remediation part, and then you review and start the whole process over.
This feedback loop makes sure the organization is always learning, always adapting, and always getting stronger, instead of just reacting to the latest crisis.
Okay, so we've looked at the cracks in the foundation, the human errors, and these broken feedback loops. So how do we actually fix all this? Well, the solution isn't just to write another policy or buy a new piece of software. It's much deeper than that. It's a fundamental shift in mindset. It's about building a true culture of compliance.
And this quote, it just nails the solution perfectly. Compliance can't be the job of one person or one department that's locked away in an office somewhere. No, it has to be a shared responsibility. It needs everyone, from the person at the front desk all the way up to the CEO, to understand the goals and be part of the solution. It's got to be baked into the company's DNA. So how do you actually build this culture? Well, it boils down to a few key actions. First, assign a dedicated compliance officer. Someone needs to own this. Second, training can't be a one-time thing. It has to be continuous and actually tailored to people's jobs. Third, do regular internal audits. Trust me, you want to find your own problems before an external auditor does. And finally, use automation tools and make sure your documentation is clear and traceable. These steps can seriously reduce your risk. At the end of the day, this is probably the most important thing to remember. Compliance is not a project you finish. You don't just check it off a list and say, we're done. It's an ongoing journey. Regulations change, tech evolves, new risks pop up all the time. A really strong compliance culture doesn't just accept this reality, it embraces it and commits to always getting better. So I'll leave you with this one last question to think about. Is your compliance program a real, robust safety net that's actively protecting your business, your data, and your customers? Or is it just a checkbox, something you do to say you did it, leaving you totally exposed to that multi-million-dollar fall? It's a critical question, and one you really need to answer.